What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in again. This is part 2 of mine and Zach's discussion on artificial intelligence and economics. If it starts out a little abrupt, that's because the full conversation was like an hour and a half long. It was really long, so I tried to stop the first section at a logical stopping point, but the discussion was really continuous. So it might sound a little abrupt, but if you're a little, behind, you can go and listen to the last episode and get caught up. So I hope you enjoy.
What kind of economic systems are best at allowing us to exercise the fact that we are created in the image and likeness of God?
Now keep in mind that if you take tiny steps towards any goal, it's just a matter of when you're going to reach it.
Scarcity is the first lesson of economics. Now, the first lesson of politics is to forget the first lesson of economics.
If you don't provide real, actual value to people in exchange for the money that you're asking for in return, you will lose over time.
We can see the economy as a social web that God has created for people to serve each other with their work.
We have the Word of God that provides for us a foundation for knowledge, for truth, for beauty, for goodness, for dignity and value in human beings. We have the Word of God that provides for us things like this. Ready? Thou shalt not steal.
Ethics on the legitimacy of wealth and entrepreneurship individually. Secondly, post-millennial eschatology, that is, the kingdom of God expands across the earth before Jesus comes back in final judgment. And the link to get those two together is the idea of the pursuit of self-interest leading to widespread economic growth and social transformation.
We're going to switch into the biblical discussion, but if you don't have a worldview, if you have a worldview that it's purely materialistic, that's a scary thing. Yeah. It is a scary thing. We don't have that worldview. And if you think about it, artificial intelligence learns based on the relationship, the material and natural relationships that humans program into its systems. Like, it's not humans programming an if-then statement, but it is programming how robots learn. It's programming, okay, if here's a relationship between gravity and everything else. Okay, go and do that. Learn based on those requirements. These things are not, they're machines. They're machines that are learning. Yeah. We are not machines. Which, kind of a side note, if you have a strictly material worldview, you cannot make a distinction between robotic artificial intelligence and humans. Yeah. They're the same thing. If the world is strictly material, both of these things, humans and artificial intelligence robots, have a central processing system, our brains, or the computer's brain, that has electrochemical signals being fired in that brain, chemicals and whatever's going on. It's natural processes that are causing this thing, this body, to do certain things, right? If you take a materialist worldview as a human, every decision that you make, every thought that you have, every emotion that you exude is solely the reaction of chemicals and electricity in your brain. You cannot help it. You can't help it. So that gets rid of all responsibility. Someone in your field, someone goes and murders someone, and they start quoting, they go to court and they start quoting all the top scientists, and they say, look, this guy, the top scientist over here says that I made these decisions because of my amygdala was too big, and my certain synapses weren't firing correctly, and all this stuff. I couldn't help it.
Which happens.
I couldn't help it.
That does happen.
It does?
Yeah, no, they plead for insanity.
Yeah, and so if you boil it all down, I mean, you get rid of any responsibility at all.
And as you're talking about that, I don't really know how to tie it into what you're talking about, but talking about justice. So say you do have an AI that goes out, tries to prevent a crime from happening, ends up whatever it may be, murdering someone unjustly. You can't serve justice on it. What are you gonna do? Shut that robot down, or you just place another one there? Like, you can't serve justice on a robot.
Right, right. Which they would, maybe you could say, well, we would go to the person who's responsible for that robot, which, well, okay, well, the person who's responsible, are they a robot? If you boil it all down, yeah, you have to say they're just another form of that type of thing.
My uvula's too big.
Yeah, my amygdala's too big. I told my robot to do this, and I couldn't help it because that's just the way the chemicals work under these conditions and these temperatures and all this.
But if you have that, it's not AI anymore because you have someone running it.
But they still had to program it to learn certain things. Which this brings up another point. AI is not neutral. Every artificial intelligence program will have fences. It'll have parameters that you cannot do this, baked into its programming. Human beings cannot be murdered. That's one thing that has to be programmed into the artificial intelligence, right? You can go out, you can send out your artificial intelligence to learn all this stuff, but when it comes to humans, don't do that, right? Why? Why? How is a human different than powering off a artificial intelligence? Like, if you flip the off switch of a robot that has learned, an artificial intelligent robot that has learned so much that it's almost, and it has the synthetic skin and all that stuff, and it looks just like a human. It can cry, it can do all this stuff. How are you going to make the distinction between the two? Like, it looks exactly the same. It's doing the exact same thing, just maybe in a slightly different way. If you power that off, can you be charged with murder? So we're honing in on the fact that human beings are made in God's image. Yeah. We have a supernatural reality about us that it is separate from creation, right? Whereas artificial intelligence, no matter how close we get to it looking like humans and operating like humans, it is not in the image of God. Yeah. It is not God's image. And there's a lot of things kind of baked into the whole image of God thing, which I think primarily is a distinction of role. What's your responsibility? What's your purpose? What are you on this earth to do? What is mankind supposed to be doing? And the ultimate thing is reflecting God, representing Him and ruling according to the way that He tells us, which is He tells us in Genesis. He gives us the dominion mandate: go and take dominion over the earth, have dominion, fill and subdue it. That's our responsibility. We are representing Him in the world. That's what we're called to do. Artificial intelligence, and you tell me what you think about this. Artificial intelligence is a legitimate way of taking dominion, in my opinion. It makes things easier. Yeah. When God cursed the ground in Genesis, He said He gave thorns. Like, thorns were the curse of the ground. It made it hard to produce. Thorns, as Jesus says in his parables, thorns choke out the fruit. They choke out the good seed. But artificial intelligence helps us get rid of the thorns.
Yeah, you stole my talking point, because as I was reading it, I was thinking, as being post-millennialists, we believe that history is progressing, things are getting better, but Paul talks about how we will work from the sweat of our brows, and there will be pain in our work because of our sin, because of the fall. But if we have AI doing these jobs, is that a progression towards the final day when Christ returns? Is making the robots, that might be a little hard and stressful, but
Yep.
it's making things easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think all technology really that helps us do things easier, and it takes the pain out, and it makes us more efficient, all that stuff. Medical advances, scientific discoveries, all this stuff are blessings from God. Ultimately, we don't want to get to the point of saying that human beings are progressing the world by themselves, like just autonomously. God, through Christ, through what Christ has done for us on the cross, reconciled the cosmos, like is in the business of. So he legally declared, in his death, burial, and resurrection, legally declared sin done for his elect, the people who trusted him. But also on the cross, you see the crown of thorns, which you can make the connection between the thorns that were in the garden as a representation of the curse of the ground, and the thorns on the cross. So there's some sort of, I believe there's some sort of sanctifying work going on, not just in believers. Throughout our life, we're sanctified. We are continually being sanctified and made into the image of God. But the curse of the ground is being removed as well. So the earth is being renewed, and he tells us that in Revelation that he's making all things new. But yeah, I agree. With artificial intelligence, we are taking the sweat of the brow and the toil away from our work. We can be productive without having to put in that effort. Now, you will, as God's image bearers, as people who represent him, we will never get to a point where work is not essential to us as human beings. We will never get to a point where we sit back and relax and say, I'm done.
Yeah, what's that movie with the robot and all the people are fat?
Yeah, Wall-E.
Wall-E, yeah.
God, before the fall, God gave us work.
Yeah.
Work was a good thing. But what, in my opinion, what artificial intelligence does is it takes the stuff that we know, the things that we know the relationships, we know how it works, we are good at this kind of thing. Artificial intelligence can learn the ins and outs of that kind of stuff and do it better than human beings can. But it can't go into the unknown. It can't go, like you can't program artificial intelligence to study quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
We're on the front lines of that, trying to figure out what that is. But you can't program artificial intelligence to learn better artificial intelligence, right? Because you don't know the relationships between the material and the immaterial and all this stuff. You would have to program the learning mechanisms in the AI to learn how to learn that stuff. So I think that's a key point as God's image bearers. We should always be pushing into the unknown, taking God's glory and his dominion into the dark places, into the places that are unknown, into the things that have not been discovered. Artificial intelligence will never take that away from us. It can learn how to do things way better than we can, right? And I think ultimately it will. But it can never push into that. It can never be on the front lines. It can only be on what do we know so far? What are the relationships between all these different things? And let's program that to learn this arena really well, better than humans. But we should be on the front lines, discovering, exploring, adventuring, all that kind of stuff. That's part of the image of God. Eden was never meant to stay within the confines of that mountain, that Edenic plateau or mountain or whatever it was. It was meant to go out into all the world, and I believe personally into outer space, the cosmos, which is really timely thought, seeing as today at 4:00, Elon Musk is going into outer space. Well, Elon Musk
He's
isn't,
not,
but
he wishes he was.
The
He was going to Mars.
The private industry is taking the public into into outer space. Yay, capitalism. Anyways, so as Christians, we should be thinking about artificial intelligence in that way. God's image is called to take his glory and his dominion into the uttermost parts of the world, the cosmos, into the unknown, into the things that we don't know, into the mysterious. That's our responsibility. Artificial intelligence will never have moral agency. It will never be able to tell you what's right and what's wrong. It can only say how do human beings normally react in certain situations. So just kind of be encouraged about that. You know what I was thinking when I was thinking about this topic? There's an interesting story in Genesis 11 where after the fall and Noah and all this stuff, there comes a time when the mankind develops this new technology, the brick. Yes, the brick. And they use brick and mortar as this new technology to build these tall buildings. They built Babel. Yeah. Wow. And they got cocky with it, and they said, basically, this is going to reach us into the heavens. Yeah. This is going to put us on, we're going to be like God almost. Yeah. I think there's parallels there with this whole artificial intelligence thing. I mean, Elon Musk and Joe Rogan have actually had the conversation about how artificial intelligence could be like a god. They've said that. It's not something that's kind of hidden. They've actually said that. And so we should think about it that way. Artificial intelligence, though it sounds kind of scary, it can sound kind of scary. And maybe it should be kind of scary. If we start using artificial intelligence to make ourselves like God, he doesn't like that. Jealous. He doesn't like that. And we should find comfort in that he will be the only God forever. He will reign eternally. And we will never get to a point where artificial intelligence has replaced mankind as his image in the world. He will, if we do, maybe he'll do a kind of Babel event again where he says, no, we're done with this. Disperse them, maybe we'll all learn different languages. So don't be scared about artificial intelligence. It's something that I think will be a benefit to humanity. It can be a little scary, but we don't have a strictly material, naturalist worldview. We have a worldview where God is in control. He will ultimately, what we think, he will guide us in the proper use of this technology, giving us kind of guardrails and building us up to the way that Eden was supposed to be, where our work is, I'm not going to say fun, but our work is joyful. We want to be on the front edges of technology and pushing into the unknown and all this stuff. At the same time, artificial intelligence and advanced technologies making our work less painful and more less toilsome, I guess, more fruitful. I was gonna do the other article. The other article is a discussion is a statement by the ERLC, which we have some issues with the ERLC, but they basically were saying, here's the evangelical statement on artificial intelligence. And basically their whole thing was, artificial intelligence will never replace the image of God. It has moral agency, it has legitimate, or it doesn't. Human beings have moral agency, artificial intelligence cannot. It has legitimate uses in the world that will benefit humanity and will help to glorify God and take dominion of the world, things like that. and then it went through a couple key points of how Christians should be thinking about artificial intelligence. But maybe I'll link that in the show notes. But I don't think we've gone for a long time, so maybe we should settle down or close it out.
Yeah.
Was there anything from that article that you wanted to discuss?
No. But I do want to talk about something.
Okay.
It's pretty off topic, but I don't guess we have a game to play. But growing up, I just want to see if my theory is correct or not. And it's probably not. What was one of your favorite movies growing up?
One of my favorite.
Some of your favorite movies growing up?
One movie that I remember liking a lot, which it wasn't a kid movie, but I really liked it, was The Replacements. Do you remember that movie? With Keanu Reeves? It was a football movie.
Football? Yeah.
It was, yeah. I was like 12 or 13 or something when I remember liking that movie. But I also liked a lot of cartoon movies. I mean,
well, I'm just thinking, so I'm wondering how like movies shape our future, because
yes,
some of my favorite.
This is a whole different discussion. But yeah, keep
some of
going.
my favorite movies growing up were like the three were Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Shawshank Redemption, and The Green Mile. And they're all policing movies.
They're what?
Policing? Well,
yeah,
Oh Brother Where Art Thou. Yeah.
But what was the other one? Old Brother Where Art Thou, Shawshank Redemption, and
The Green Mile.
Green Mile. Okay.
And so I'm sure there's not a movie you enjoy about accounting or anything like that. But I didn't know.
Have you seen The Accountant?
No.
That's a good movie. It's a shoot 'em up movie. But anyways.
Nope. So yeah.
They might. I don't know. I do think that the entertainment that we that kind of entertains us does shape. It can shape you if you sit in front of a TV and watch certain things all the time. It will gradually shape the way that you interact with people.
Kind of like you.
It'll shape your values.
And making cocktails.
Yeah. How'd you know I was doing that? Oh, I called you the other day. Yeah. By the way,
really good.
Last night I made it was a old-fashioned
mule.
No, it was just an old-fashioned, and either I didn't make it correct or old-fashions suck. Like, they're terrible. Anyways, one other thing I wanted to say before we get off the topic of AI, before we close out. There's a big discussion about how AI is going to take people's jobs and the whole universal basic income thing. We need a universal basic income to supply people with money when AI takes their jobs. There's so much wrong with that. First, a universal basic income does nothing. Just as a rule of thumb, if everyone in the country gets $1,000 a month, $1,000 becomes the new zero.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how it works. It's not going to help. Maybe it'll help for a little bit, but eventually, all prices in the economy are going to rise to meet that new demand in the marketplace. Prices are like water. They go to the path of least resistance and they try to reach an equilibrium. And they will push to a point where, like, they're always seeking the point of equilibrium. If you have a ton of extra money being flooded into the market, prices are gonna adjust to that, and they're going to pick up on the demand. Because if you have $1,000 extra dollars a month, you become a little less critical about the things that you spend money on. You say, oh, I can afford it now. So you start spending more money on certain items that you wouldn't normally under the circumstances that you would under your old salary.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. So prices will ultimately rise, and then $1,000 becomes the new zero. So just kind of keep that in mind. On the topic of it replacing jobs, yes, it will. All new technology replaces jobs. There are no more icemen. The refrigerator obliterated the Iceman industry.
Yeah.
No, we don't need them anymore. Okay. Netflix and streaming services obliterated Blockbuster because they didn't.
And they're about to obliterate the movie industry, theater industry.
Yeah. Technology will replace jobs. If your response to that is, hey, let's not improve technologically and let's keep jobs for the sake of keeping jobs. Okay, that's the same thing as me saying, okay, I'm going to use this shovel and I'm going to move dirt from one side of the road to the other side of the road. That keeps me with a job, right? Keeps me getting paid. But that job is doing nothing to provide value to society, right? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter. Like, money is going to follow where value is going to go to the places where value is being created for other people. So when we think about artificial intelligence and the image of God, Christians, you need to think of your job in the economy as, how am I going to provide value for someone else, and not what job can I have? What job can I get? That's not the question you need to ask. The question you need to ask is, what value can I provide to others that they can't do themselves? Or what can I devote my time and my energy to doing to provide value to someone else who can't devote their time and energy to that? How can I be so good at something that it will reduce the cost of a luxury item or improve the quality of an item so that people find value in it and want to transact with me freely? That's the type of thing we need to be thinking about. You need to love your neighbor. You need to know what they want, know what they need, know what price they can afford certain things, and you need to be constantly pursuing quality, efficiency, all of this stuff to provide value to your neighbor. That's what you need to be doing. If you think that artificial intelligence is going to take your job, start learning a new skill.
Find a way to build something that's better than that.
Yeah, exactly.
It pushes competition, and it makes people study people to find out what they really need. So if you take the fridge taking over the Iceman, if that was your job, you're an Iceman and the fridge took it over, find something that works better.
Yeah.
And build that, and then
always
competition, keep pushing.
Yeah,
more
exactly.
wealth.
Like what we were talking about. The image of God is always on the front lines, pushing to improve the world, provide value to other people, to bring God's glory into the dark corners of the earth, right? We can never accurately say what the future is going to be like, what technology is going to be there. Back in the 1800s, if you were to go back into George Washington and you were to give him a phone that had the capabilities that our phones do now, he would think he'd gotten a tablet from God or something like that. Like there's so much that they didn't know was coming, and we don't know what's coming for us. So you should never think, okay, I've got a job, I'm settled, I'm done. Let me just kind of coast on out from here. Let me get my retirement and then just kind of kick up my feet and relax. You will never be a representative of God. You'll never be His image completely if you're not pursuing His glory in your vocation, in your work, right? This is why people, it sounds kind of morbid, but people go on retirement and they die.
Yep.
They die pretty soon after that because there's no purpose. There's no, that you're not called to just relax. You're called to work. And ultimately, we will work without the sweat of our brow and all that stuff. No toil. Will be fruitful without, pain. But as Christians, we need to be thinking, how can I take God's glory to the uttermost parts of the world, provide value for my neighbor? It's what Christ in Capital is all about. Love God, love neighbor, and build something. That's what we're called to do in the economic arena. So, AI, image of God, we discussed all that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope.
Alright, well, thanks everybody. Go subscribe to the podcast. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, if you want to go there. Go to the website, check it out. I'll link the 2 articles that we discussed, or kind of discussed. He's dragging the chain. Did you see that? Anyways, go and subscribe, leave a rate and review, or leave a comment. We, like I say all the time, the algorithm, the artificial intelligence, improves our search results and kind of pushes us up the ladder if people are active on our account and give us comments and reviews and stuff like that. So go do that. As you think about AI and talking about AI with your friends, just realize that the image of God will never be replaced by AI, and your responsibility, no matter what artificial intelligence does in the future, is to take God's glory to the uttermost parts of the world, the cosmos. So, I think we're done. Yep. So until then, go love God, love neighbor, build something. I'll talk to you guys later.